Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the MarquetteHoops.com basketball show with our producer Jason Ruck and the great John Dodds. I'm Tom Pippins. We are brought to you by Moonlight Graham, Modern Dental Benefits. Moonlight Graham, a proud sponsor of this program, and we're so grateful to our MVP in that regard, Craig Caston, and also to Jim Sartori, Sartori Cheese. Wonderful to have him with us as well. And John, going down memory lane, another great get by you in terms of a guest for this show.
Yep, today we have Tom Crean. We talk about the run to the Final Four. We talk about the 20-year reunion of the Final Four team. We talk about building the program back in 1999.
I think you'll enjoy it as much as we enjoyed being with him. Well, there have been two coaches to lead Marquette to the Final Four, Al McGuire twice, and the man we're privileged to have with us here today, Tom Crean. Coach, first of all, it is wonderful to see you. You look fabulous. Tell us how you're doing, Joni and the kids who are no longer kids, right?
Well, they still are to me. And I just left. My daughter, Megan, lives in New York now. And with doing my ESPN work, which is what I'm doing this year, I went up to see her this past weekend in New York City for a couple of days and then came back. We live in Florida, Lakewood Ranch, Florida. So I got to see her. And it's amazing. I was telling my wife, every time you see somebody carrying around their little child or carrying them or pushing them in a stroller, you think of those days. And those were our Marquette days, you know, when they were that young. And the Michigan State and Marquette days for us. And so she's 27 now and working in New York City. And Riley is 23, graduated from Georgia and works for the Dallas Mavericks in video and player development in his first year with them. And then Ainsley, who was born near the end of our time at Marquette, is 17, a high school junior, right here in Lakewood Ranch, and playing tennis. And we're starting that college process with her. And Joni's doing great. She is. Good. She's. I think we all enjoy the Florida weather, the Florida life. She plays a lot of tennis, and we're busy watching our kids grow up. So it's good.
You're not too proud of Papa. You have every right to be. You and Joni did a wonderful job. Please give her our best and tell her I remember the days when we shared playground duty at Lumen Christi.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I told her I was going to be on with you and both of you, and she said to say hello, but we were talking about your kids and days at the church and all the different things. So we absolutely loved raising our kids in Mequon, Milwaukee area at Marquette. I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, it really was. Those 9 years of growing up in there with them, so many memories for all of us. But really, those memories don't go away because they just come up at the most different times, right? Something will come up. It's easy when Marquette's on or we go back for a function, but it's even more special when you listen to them bring up something out of the blue. And I think that's what's awesome about living there.
Yeah. I saw you at the Shaka Smart had a coaching clinic, and you were one of the keynote speakers last October. And Marquette fans were a little nervous. Kirk With, Morcell, and Justin Lewis left over the past year, and were nervous about rebounding in size. But you had spent 2 or 3 days with the team and watched them practice, had talked to Shaka, and you basically called this. You thought they were going to be very successful. You said that during the presentation you made to all the high school coaches there. What led you to believe that? What did you see back then?
Quickness of their bigs. Their bigs had a unique quickness. Every bigger guy that he had the ability to play away from the rim, but more importantly, be able to guard away from the basket. And you could see the skill sets. So they might be a little thin, but there was quickness. There was some toughness. You could see what I remember seeing is the improvement of Tyler Kolek with his shooting. Because I thought for him I'd been at a game the year before when we went into the Hall of Fame and saw him play against Xavier. And at that point, I'm still concerned about his shooting. And to see his shooting in a practice and know that he had improved it like that, like you're looking at that saying that's going to carry over. That's going to make a huge difference for their team. The day that I was there, Cam Jones may not have had a great practice, but you could see the speed and the quickness of him. You could see the coaches' details, right? You could see how they stayed engaged in every play. And I've coached against Shaka Smart before when he was at VCU in Texas. So I know the level of what they do when it comes to the X's and O's. But now once you see it in practice, now you see the level of the connection that he builds with the players. And you could just see it. You can feel it, right? And he puts coaches around that are trying to build those same connections and a staff of people. But the ability to connect with his team. So, like, when I saw the preseason rankings, I said, well, there's no way. Like, I don't know the Big East that well yet, but I know that team is way better than this. And as I've watched during the season, it's really reminded me of our first year in the Big East, where we were picked to finish 12th when we had the three freshman guards and Steve Novak as a senior. But yet we got a first-round bye and ended up 4th in the Big East and went to the tournament. And I thought as the season was going on, this team is very, very similar to this and can go way beyond that. And I think he's building something really, really strong that's sustainable, because the players get better. They enjoy playing with each other, but there's an energy in that team. I mean, and being at the walkthrough that day of the Providence game, there's an energy in that team. Those kids enjoy being in the gym. And I think the other thing that separates them, and this is like what happened with us in the NCAA tournament. Chris Grimm, Karen Bradley, Joe Chapman, obviously Steve Novak, those guys had to feel that they could make a difference in a game, because everybody can go in a game and lose the game for you or make a play that loses the game for you. Not everybody can go in the game and win the game for you. And you've got to have a team full of guys that at any given moment, they can help you win the game. And I think that's what development's all about. And I think Shaka is doing. Like you mentioned it earlier with Travis Diener. Travis Diener got better and better and better and better as that season goes along. He misses a couple of days before the Holy Cross game with an injury. He comes out, plays in that Holy Cross game. Without what he did against Holy Cross, we don't move on, right? Because he just kept getting better, got hurt a little bit, then he came back. I mean, that's the beauty of improvement, right? You build a confidence in yourself because you're improving, and that's where you get your energy from. And I think that's what Shaka's got.
Tom, I think that motor still runs, doesn't it? You've worked hard, you're in a position to be with family and what have you, but you're speaker, commentator. Will you coach again if the right situation comes up?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Where I sit right now is that it's not burning that like I have to do it. And that's the good thing, right? Because I love coaching. I feel like I'm getting smarter every day. I feel like I'm learning more things every day. You get around teams like that and go back for those reunions, and and it's the same thing. You know, I've had more of a chance now to see more of my guys play in person this year in the NBA. Like the other night, I had two former second-round picks jump center against each other, with the Lakers with Thomas Bryant and the Nets with Nick Claxton. And you realize that like the way you're doing it, if they're going to be successful, that's what has to happen, right? And you've got to push them and you've got to drive them and help them believe in themselves. So I will, but again, not just coaching to coach, but coaching because like, okay, I really feel this, and I feel like this is going to be. I mean, I've never been in a better environment in all my years of coaching than I had at Marquette administratively. I mean, never. I mean, it was the best. I mean, going away, it was the best. And it started with Bill Cords and Father Wild and Greg Klebon and moved right on. I mean, it was phenomenal. And so you get spoiled on what alignment is really like. And so you're looking for that, right? You're looking for that. You appreciate more and more. I always appreciated it then. But I also thought that wouldn't be the last time you feel that, right? It takes a lot to be connected with people that have their own ambitions and own views of things, and to come together and align for the greater cause, which is how you build a successful program. So those are the kind of things you look for. But we'll see how it goes. But I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, and I'm enjoying learning and getting smarter at it, hopefully. So I can bring something to television, then eventually maybe bring something to coaching again.
Yeah, you're not standing still. Always that insatiable desire, for more knowledge, to continue to learn. Dadsy, maybe another question or so from you.
Sure. It's a Marquette tradition that coaches go into going to TV. Al McGuire, Rick Majerus, they all seem to do a good job at it. Wanted to just touch on the Final Four, if I could, the run to the Final Four. We're talking about Travis Diener. I know that the Holy Cross game, you were playing against one of your mentors, I believe, was the coach of Holy Cross, and
Ralph Willard.
And they had won 26 games or 25 games in a row. They were really hot. That was a really good team, and people don't understand the pressure that the players are under. It looked like Dwayne Wade had an anvil on his chest, and so did Robert Jackson. It was just, it's one and done. It's pressure packed, and I remember Joe Chapman hit a 3-point shot with about 6 minutes to go, and it just lifted Wade off, and then they came and won the game. But Travis Diener, I think, had the terrific game, 29 points, I think, that game.
Exactly. There was a lot of pressure for me, and they probably felt it, because that was that was an incredible mentor for me. And I hadn't coached against him, and I hadn't coached against Tom Izzo at that point. And so that, to me, was very, very stressful for me, because I care so much for Ralph Willard. And I remember after that game, just being in the locker room, the coach's locker room, just broke down crying. It was just so, it kind of built up in me. And then to get the win, it was almost like relief. And unfortunately, I think probably the players felt some of that, because we had lost in the first round the year before. And remember, we're coming off losing to UAB. We played very, very poorly in the first round of the tournament after winning the conference championship. So there was that pressure that we had, because we're coming off a loss. So that was maybe one of the great relief games that also turned out to be a great game. And I think that helped us as we went down the line. And because so many things. I mean, if Ricky Paulding makes that shot at the end of regulation, we don't go into overtime, with Missouri. And then we do something I've never seen in my life before or since. We go 10 for 10 in the overtime. And so there were just so many different things. And I think that tournament had so many benchmarks for us. I mean, you go to the Pittsburgh game, and I think there were, of 19 possessions between the end of the first half and the second half, Dwayne Wade either scored or assisted in that type of situation. And remember Travis making plays, and we win a close game, and then we got off to a poor start against Kentucky, but then we just turned it on and had it at 24, and there were all those motivations. Robert Jackson was motivated because Marquise Estelle didn't remember him, right, from playing against him at Kentucky, and Robert had done it all.
That was not a smart comment.
Yeah, not at all. And so, that's the beauty of all that, right? There's all these different stories that lead into it, but the energy that Travis played with, he basically got about a 3-day break with that little injury, and I felt good that he got cleared that night, the night before the Thursday night game in Indianapolis. He got cleared, and to a man, we found a gym, IUPUI, in their old practice gym. To a man, every guy went over to get extra shots that night. We'd already had our walkthrough. We were playing in the afternoon on Thursday. We'd already done all that stuff. Every guy, to a man, went over there to shoot extra so that we could get Travis some shots. And I thought, okay, we're in a good spot right now. But that's the hardest one, right? You don't get to go to the next one until you win the first one, and there's no question that's the hardest one.
Well, the Missouri game might have been the best college game I've ever been at. There was two teams playing at an incredibly high level, and at the end of that game, you set up a play for Wade, who missed in regulation. I think it was tie score, and he missed down low, and he fell into the baseline, and then Missouri went the other way on a 5-on-4 break. And if you ever want to see determination, just watch Dwayne Wade getting himself up and sprinting back to fly past Ricky Paulding on that jump shot. And I thought that shot was good. I mean, from where I was at, I thought Paulding hit it. And then the whole team, the other thing I remember about that play is he missed the shot, and the whole team, it bounced away, and the whole team took a breath, like a collective breath. And then I realized how young that team really was. They just, and then you ran out onto the center court, and you're clapping and cheering and hey, way to go, and you're trying to lift their spirits up, and then they kind of gained themselves, and they got back, and then they obviously didn't miss a shot in the overtime, and Dwayne Wade made the pass from one side of the lane through the lane to Steve Novak in the corner, which one of the more incredible passes I've ever seen. And then, but that game was, after that game, CBS said that Travis Diener was the MVP of the tournament after 2 games.
Well, he probably was. I mean, he probably, I think he averaged, 25 or 27? Because didn't he have 25 in that game?
He had 26 in that game and 29 the first game.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but that's the beauty of the team, right? That's the beauty of the team. And still, I'll never forget the day Travis got hurt his senior year, and he was 72 or 82 points away from becoming the all-time leading scorer. I mean, and just the pain that he had, the pain of the injury, and I had the pain of what wasn't going to be able to happen for him, right? Like you want to see your people be so successful because of what they've endured to get where they are. And we don't get through that weekend without what Travis Diener did, and without Scott Merritt made some big buckets in that weekend, and especially in the overtime, Steve Novak with the 3 threes. I mean, it's a team effort, right? But that team just epitomized that everybody, when everybody looks back at that season, they'll know they had an impact on us getting where we wanted to go. Not just they were on the team and played, but that they actually did things that separated us so that we could continue to play.
Then the Pittsburgh game up in Minneapolis, Big East champions, one of the most physical games I've ever seen. And Wade gets in foul trouble in the first half, you take him out, and the freshmen really came in and saved you. Karen Bradley, Novak, and Chapman really kept it close, I think within 6 in that time. Talk about that game if you could, just briefly.
Well, you're exactly right about the physicality of it. And we knew it was going to be a battle. And I was concerned going into that game because I didn't like our practice the day before. And I didn't like it at all. I thought we'd almost hit a point where we felt we'd arrived, that we had done as much as we could do. And our guys regrouped. They really did. And that physicality of that game helped them regroup. But that was a great example of it. Every possession is over magnified because of the pace of the game. They're really good. They've got excellent guards, excellent forwards, great coaching in Ben Holland. So we have to be a team. We can't win that game with turnovers. We can't win that game with empty possession. We have to win a grinded out, fighting game. And I think that's where the games like playing against St. Louis and people like that, Cincinnati, that's where those games help you when you go into the tournament, because you're used to playing in a game like that. You're used to playing in a game where every possession matters. And our guys had the maturity to do that. And then we held on. I believe we won it by 3. But some of the passes that Dwayne made, the plays, the way we refused pick and roll on the side, the guys making timely jump shots, it was fantastic.
Wade made the signature shot in that game. He got fouled and he was kind of hovering and he was laid out about 3 feet off the ground, and he flipped the ball horizontally. He flipped the ball up and in, and it looked like the Pittsburgh players got together and just went, whoa. We knew this guy was good. We didn't know he was this good. We need a bigger boat. Yeah. Kind of from Jaws. We need a bigger boat.
That was an amazing shot. That was an amazing shot, no question.
So then the other thing I remember about that game is the opponent's center took his shoes off and sat with the cheerleaders during the game. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I remember that he was down there and why he wasn't back in. I never did find out what that was all about. So
yeah, I wasn't in. Yeah, the Kentucky game, the next game, they barely beat Wisconsin, and was it Bogues? They had a player who sprained his ankle against Wisconsin.
Keith Bogans.
Yeah, Bogans, that's right. And so Marquise Estelle beat Wisconsin basically, and you had really told you told Rob Jackson that he didn't remember you, and Jackson was just, raring to go. He played at Mississippi State, I don't remember. Well, Jackson had the game of his life, but you had that double down on Estelle, and Steve Novak, may have been a bad defender or a poor defender in space because of lack of foot quickness, but he was an outstanding help defender down low with his size. Can you talk about how you game planned and schemed to double team Estelle, because the doubles seemed to come from all different angles?
Well, it did, because we were coming off the ball. We were coming off who passed the ball in, and we were going on the dribble as the ball went in. So it could be from anybody, right? Because whoever threw it in, that guy was coming down, and then we would zone it up on the other side. And if they ran any type of action where the man that passed it in cut and somebody replaced back over, okay, then the guy that was replacing over, he'd take the cutter, and the man that went down on the ball, okay, would come back out to the guy that replaced. So it was an automatic switch. So it would change up the matchups. So you had to be alive and alert. You had to shrink your weak side, but you had to understand what the passer did after he threw the ball in. But we were going to go down and get the ball. We were going to go down and go after that ball and try to make it tough for them to score. And that, to me, was the safest way to do it, rather than getting into a full rotation. There, you're really only rotating two people, rather than coming from different angles and the other side of the court maybe having to rotate four people. And I thought it would simplify it in one day's time.
After the game, about an hour, I was watching the Kansas-Arizona game with Dwayne Stevens, and it was a close game, nip and tuck, and at the end, Kansas pulled it out. And Dwayne Stevens kind of said, gee, I'd rather have Arizona, because Kansas is probably a bad matchup for us. And I said, okay. And when all the crowd cheered you getting on the bus at the old gym going out to the Final Four, I noticed that Travis Diener could barely get on the bus because of his shin. He had a lower shin injury, and he just was not the same player that he was, unfortunately, 2 weeks before in Indianapolis. And I thought, well, Marquette has the advantage. They shot in domes in Indy, they shot in domes in Minneapolis, now they're shooting in domes in New Orleans. Hey, we can maybe do something. It just wasn't to be. When you look back at Kansas, what do you think of that?
Well, we missed a lot of close shots. And when you miss close shots with the way that they run, your bigs are behind the play, right? They don't have to take it out. And Nick Collison, Kirk Heinrich, those guys were really good. Collison was so good at getting up the floor, right? They had a really good team of those guys. And because we missed so many shots around the rim, our bigs were behind the play. Rather than scoring, they take it out, and we get up the floor. So it just put us in a bit of a disadvantage on the break, and our bigs had to do so much. But we just didn't make enough shots early to get our defense set. And I think because they were able to get out and run, it hurt us. And Kirk Heinrich did a good job that game. But, again, we make some earlier shots, and that thing's closer. Our confidence goes up. And at the same time, they've got to come against a set defense rather than us being in a transition defense and then having the ball and the runners out ahead of us. And I think that's why it snowballed so quick for us, because we missed we missed a bunch of 0, 1, and 2 foot shots.
Pip, you made the mistake of saying, do you have another question?
Another question. I think Tom's been very gracious,
Yeah.
and you've engaged each other. It's been fantastic. I want to close with this, Coach, if I may. Obviously, we thank you for the stroll down memory lane.
Absolutely.
I've been smiling ear to ear and very much looking forward to seeing you again. This is almost a little bit emotional, but in the business that you're in, people can make judgments without knowing the person. It's high pressure. You're out there. You're scrutinized. But anyone blessed to know you on any level would come away with this, and this is my biggest takeaway. Final Fours, all the success notwithstanding, it's your heart, Tom, and the way you care for people. And that's what separates you from all the rest. And That is my memory. It's why in 40 years in the business, I feel very thankful that our paths crossed, if I may indulge for just a moment. So thank you for all that, Coach.
I appreciate you saying that. And preparing for this and knowing that we were going to do it, it's all those memories come back. And I appreciate both of you. John, your love for Marquette and knowledge of Marquette, and eye for basketball, and it's incredible. And I haven't met anybody like you that has that. I mean, you just have that, and your heart is so pure for what you want to see Marquette be. And I've always appreciated that. And Tom, between you and Tim Van Voren and the lifelong friendships made over there at Fox, because you guys separated, and to watch our families grow up, and never forget you taking pictures in church and sharing them with us, and you're taking pictures of your kids, and you're making sure we have pictures of ours when it's a Christmas event or something like that, and it's been awesome. I mean, it's when you get fortunate enough to be in an environment where you can count people that inspire you, okay, long after you leave, based on the way that you were there with them, that says everything about relationships. And I was so fortunate to have that at Marquette. I was so fortunate to have that with Al McGuire, with so many other people. To this day, you have those memories. But it's people like you, and it's Tom. It's the way you always treated me in your work that it was so phenomenal. And watching our families grow up together was incredible. And so I appreciate both of you. That's why this was a no-brainer, just a matter of getting it done. And I'm glad we did. I really appreciate you having me.
Well, it's been a great gift. It's been special, and you are special. And God's blessings to you and Joni and your family, and continued success. We'll certainly keep an eye out as to your next step going down the line. And when the time is right, I hope you do get into coaching, if the time is right. Thanks again, Tom. Great to see you.
You too. You guys take care. You too.
Been wonderful.
See you, John.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Coach. Thank you for the time.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Tom Crean. Brought to you by Moonlight Graham, Modern Dental Benefits, proud sponsor of the MarquetteHoops.com basketball show, and Sartori Cheese. Jim Sartori, we appreciate you coming off the bench and being in the game with us as well. It's been an absolute delight. And John, you've got a super website as we promote this show and promote your passion, Marquette basketball.
We have a Marquette basketball recruiting site, MarquetteHoops.com. It's part of the CBS network, CBS Digital. 24/7 network, and if you'd like to be on our free newsletter, we kept abreast of future guests, please drop your email down. You have to do it twice. I've been told that it doesn't work the first time, but we're fixing that, so drop it twice, and we'll archive some of our top shows at the site.
Well, Shaka Smart and company doing just great. Couldn't get any better. So for our producer, Jason Ruck, and John Dodds, I'm Tom Pippins. God bless everybody. See you next time, and go Golden Eagles.